Hey everyone, today I'm out here near Huntsville, Texas with Nick Kappa from Ram Trucks, and we're talking about two of the most capable trucks that you can buy in America right now. The all-new 2019 Ram Rebel right here, and the almost new 2019 Ram Power Wagon right over here, the 2500 Ram. So if you're looking for an off-road half-ton pickup truck, that's this boy right here. If you're looking for something even bigger, then that's this one right over here. But to try and sell me on why you might want a Power Wagon over a Rebel, Nick is going to help us out here because these two are actually almost about the same price, right, Nick?
Oh, true, and you can get this in a certain version of it, the Tradesman Power Wagon, that even goes to another level. But
Yep.
Yes, you're right.
And so, two very different vehicles for different shoppers. Well, so why would I want the Power Wagon?
So we base the Power Wagon and give it the title the most capable off-road pickup truck because it's based on a 3/4 ton truck. So not only has it got a lot of heavy duty components and axles and engine and transfer case and transmission, but it also has the chassis to be able to support payload and towing capability that you wouldn't be able to do in a half-ton truck.
So Nick, it's funny that you mentioned payload and towing capacity because payload and towing capacity are actually pretty equal. And in fact, when we check the door stickers on these two, this one actually has a payload rating that is ever so slightly higher than that 2500 you're leaning on.
I should have known better than to go against you on statistics. You're right on that. What about towing?
Towing is pretty similar according to the Ram website, but you
Okay.
can fill me in on the actual details.
So
It's a few hundred pounds.
there's some reason why payload and towing numbers might be similar in these two trucks. The biggest one though is look at the ride height on this truck. Look at my ground clearance. And there's a certain amount that has to be put into place when you're doing rapid lane change maneuvers for J2807, which is the SA standard for
Yes,
any
but
kind of payload
standard
trailer.
we must all go by.
You're right, and that's what we do. So as far as that goes though, I can tell you what, that although the numbers say what they are, I'd still rather tow with this one because I have bigger brakes, I have more power, I
it's
have
heavier.
410 gear set.
It's heavier.
It's heavier. How much heavier though is it? Really?
We did the numbers, it's 1,800 pounds heavier.
1,800 pounds heavier. I still feel better about the 3/4 ton chassis for hauling payload or towing.
Hauling payload, true. The thing I noticed we're missing here is we don't have a winch option in the Rebel, which makes me a little bit sad, but we do have a winch over here in the Ram.
Well, you stopped short of some other things that we need to talk about.
We're gonna skip over those things, and then right over here we have this lovely winch here, which I do like. Why is it that we couldn't put one here in the Rebel?
If you're going to be putting a winch, if you're going to put a 12,000 pound winch, or even in this truck maybe a 9,000 pound winch, it's going to take a lot different packaging that you can do on a 3/4 ton truck. We have a lot more room to play with here.
Gotcha. So the bumper's a little smaller here.
Right. It's just a packaging issue for most of the reason.
Folks out there don't realize this, but you don't really want an ultra firm suspension in the back for off-roading, but interestingly enough, you do for payload. You actually need those firmer springs in the back because you have to be able to support that 4,000 pounds. And when you had 4,000 pounds in there, it has to not bottom out. So you don't really want that same kind of suspension in an off-road vehicle. They do have to be adjusted for off-road duty. And that's part of why, of course, the Ram Rebel does not have the maximum payload capacity that's available in a 1500 either. No Ram truck would be complete without a Hemi under the hood, and what is under your hood, Nick?
I have 6.4 liters of power, 429 pound-feet of torque, 410 horsepower.
This is actually my favorite Hemi, if you didn't know that, actually.
Oh,
I love the 6.4 liter Hemi.
And there's a lot of people that feel just like you do then.
Yes, and I wish it was in everything. If you could stick this Hemi under the hood of a Chrysler Pacifica, I would buy one. And under this hood, we have the smaller Hemi, the 5.7 liter Hemi, actually the same one that is under the hood of my Dodge Durango. And if I recall correctly, the same 8-speed automatic, the 8HP 75. This one is not that same 8-speed you said though.
It's tweaked a little bit for the heavier duty cycle. It's a bigger engine, a heavier truck, a little bit different capability cycle, so we have to tune it that way and be able to expect that the person who's going to buy, it's the same engine that you find in a Ram 2500 with a 6.4. So it's tuned the same way, so is the transmission.
Got it. One question we get a lot on the Power Wagon is why no diesel engine?
Oh, and that's a good question. Now, we talked about why we couldn't put a winch in the Rebel. Do you remember what the answer was?
Yeah, there's no room up front in the bumper. Need a different bumper design.
Guess what goes right here in a diesel?
Oh, yes, the intercooler.
Yes, it does. Not only that, the Cummins 6.7 liter, as powerful as it is, it's a very tall engine because it's an inline six. So that's going to impact your axle articulation too and your movement. So and the last piece is the weight. You want to keep a Power Wagon as light as possible. It's already a 3/4 ton truck. Now put a Cummins engine in the front of it. So those three things come together: the packaging, the intercooler, and the weight are the reasons we don't do it.
This one already weighs 7,000 something pounds.
And it does.
It's a big boy.
But to most people who buy heavy duty trucks, they're looking at you saying, yeah, that's par for the course. That's about norm for a heavy duty truck. In fact, it's a little lighter because we've added some features to it for 19 to lighten it up.
Let's go around to the back. You'll notice the Power Wagon is a little bit longer, so it's going to be harder to park than the Ram 1500 as well. It's about 5 inches shorter overall. That's a factor. People have to be able to fit these in their driveway. I can't argue with you on data.
You always know the numbers, Alex.
You know, and we have the cooler dual exhaust back here in the Ram 1500. See, these are definitely cooler than this very 1980s side pipe here that we have in the Power Wagon. But your Power Wagon does have Ram boxes, which makes me sad as well that those are not on that particular Rebel. When the Ram 1500 was redesigned, we got an entirely new and much nicer interior than the previous generation 1500. New steering wheel designs, new instrument clusters, new dashboard, and the large infotainment system that we see especially in the Ram truck advertisements. We also got a new seat design for the driver. We have a 4-way adjustable lumbar support power design in this particular model. And then if I move back here to the rear seats, we actually get a slightly more accommodating cabin than we find in the 2500 because of its overall age. And if I flip up this seat, you'll notice we have a completely flat load floor down there. There's also a flip out little storage divider right there. And then one last feature, we actually have an available reclining rear seat depending on the model of 1500 you get. Now, if I hop over here to the 2500, you'll notice that this interior looks very, very similar, but it is actually not the same because under the skin, this is not the same pickup truck. So the dashboard components are almost identical. The doors, however, are actually a little bit different, and they do feel a little bit older than what we see in the Ram 1500. In here, of course, the big thing is that we still have this massive touchscreen in the dashboard. Definitely a strong selling point of the current Ram pickup truck line. But the steering column is not a tilt telescopic steering column. It actually only adjusts for tilt, and it's the older steering wheel design. Also older is the seat design itself. So we only have a 2-way adjustable lumbar support here, not a 4-way adjustable lumbar support, and the seat frame itself is not quite as comfortable. Now, if I hop into the back seat, you'll notice this is not the same cab that we find in the 1500. It's really obvious if I lift up the seat right there because we don't have that fold flat load floor. Instead, we have this little divider right here that'll pop out and give you a flat space. And then if we lift up this area, we actually find the speaker for the Harman Kardon audio system right down there. If you didn't get the optional Harman Kardon audio system, that would be available to you as extra storage. A big difference in suspension design between these two guys right here is that we have a solid axle in your 2500 and I have independent front suspension in the 1500. Now, obviously this is better for wheel articulation, but this one's a little better on the road.
Yeah, and off-roaders have always really loved to have a straight axle suspension system, and so the Power Wagon actually has that. And you're right, the IFS system handles better, it feels better in turns and such, but the straight axle system is definitely more apt for off-road use.
Yep. And from this angle, you can really see how much bigger really the Power Wagon is since we have those same tires on there and how much they, how small in a way that they look compared to what they do on the Ram 1500.
We spent a lot of time on the tires on both the Rebel and the Power Wagon to find something that worked good on the highway, doesn't make a whole lot of noise, but also works well in the dirt. So you can see that they have the self-cleaning and each one has side bite on them too.
And this is something that I think a lot of people don't really think about when they're going off-roading is tires make a massive difference. So if you were to put all-season tires on this thing, how would this handle off-road?
Yeah, very different,
terrible, right? So a lot of people forget this. Maybe they buy a truck like this and then they change tires later, and then they're surprised when it can't handle off-road situations just like it did when new. Remember, the tires are definitely very, very important. So I think to sum it all up, if you're shopping for the truck that's a little bit easier to park, a little bit more fuel efficient, that would be this guy right here. If you're shopping for the ultimate in off-road ability, with some caveats, but not too many, that would be this guy right over here. Can you agree with that?
I'm absolutely with it. The Power Wagon is definitely for the more off-road buys, the extreme side of things. The Rebel, as you said, is a little more civil, great for a half-ton buyer.
So now to put you on the line with your boss, if your money was on the line, which would you pick?
The Power Wagon.
Okay, and if my money were on the line, I suspect I would pick the Rebel, but I would just sort of look at the Power Wagon now and then kind of longingly going, maybe I should have got a Power Wagon. Anyway, let me know what your choice would be down there in the comments section below. And if you haven't found us over at facebook.com/AlexNautos, do that right now, and I'll see you next week.